Hey everyone, Sparks back with another Etheria restart video, and we are getting our two new banners, which are our first banners since launch, and I've got some feelings about it. I'll tell you kind of my general opinion on these new units, but before that, I do want to talk about what their kits actually do. Now, Holden is a brand new unit we haven't seen at all. Hoyan is the other one, which was in the initial beta that then was removed for the final beta. So we have a little more experience with her. But let's talk about Holden first, because he's kind of like the brand new exciting guy. And the first thing I want to point out is that Holden's attack damage scales with his defense. Also, I don't like how they announce these characters. I really wish they just put up like a slide that they post on like Twitter or something. Instead, it's like only on video, but whatever. So Holden's attack scales off of defense, which is definitely significant to note because that's going to completely change how you want to build him and equip him and that kind of thing. This is probably a good thing. And we already know that Rahu is a very strong unit. So, you kind of build your offense and defense at the same time with your attack scaling off your defense. So that's kind of cool. So now I'm going to go through his skills going from like 3, 2, and then 1, because I feel like 3 is kind of like the big centerpiece of a unit. If their like, skill 3 is good, that means it's probably the main reason that you're going to be using that unit for. So it's called Steadfast Conviction, and it says deals 2 hits of damage equal to 180% of his defense to all enemies. Each hit has a 50% chance to dispel 1 buff from the enemy and inflicts 2 turn attack down and resistance down. If the attack lands a critical hit, the chance to apply those effects is doubled. So you can build him as a crit build. Again, focus on defense and crit, and then you're going to be doing attack down on the enemy and effect resistance down. Those are 2 really, really strong effects. And that's going to be a lot of damage. 2 hits of 180% is no joke. And 50% chance, you can easily build on that. That's a good base to then try and get to up to 100. Of course, then you're still going to have to deal with the opponent's effect resist, but you're also lowering their effect resist if you do land it. So build him for crit, and I think that's definitely a strong looking ability. Now, his skill 2 is pretty interesting. It says Holden deals damage equal to 480% of his defense to a single enemy with a 100% chance to push back the target's turn meter by 100% and maximize their skill cooldown. This is probably the best part of this unit. This is pretty busted. Now, it does have a 4-turn cooldown, so it's a little bit long, but that's still like an extremely devastating skill. If you get hit by this in PvP, that's going to be brutal. Like, you might as well just plan on never using your skills again, because it just resets all their skills to maximum. Obviously, this can be useful in other cases as well, but I just feel like that's going to be a huge pain to deal with in PvP. 480% of defense is really big damage. It is only single target, but still. The fact that it starts with a 100% chance, though, that's also really, really good. Okay, so now we'll take a look at his skill 1. Deals 3 hits of damage equal to 110% of his defense to a single enemy. Each hit has a 20% chance to inflict 1 turn defense down. Now, this is kind of whatever, but I mean, it's his skill 1, right? So you can't put anything too OP on that. And then it says execution mode. At the start of the battle, for every 500 defense Holden possesses, increases self 10% counterattack rate and 5% final damage. Okay, so the skill itself is kind of whatever, but this like passive execution mode, where if you just build them with a ton of defense, is kind of bananas. Like, being able to increase your counterattack rate and your final damage amount sounds really OP. So you probably want to build him with Bramble, which, I mean, they already even showed it in the video because that's going to allow you to do counterattacks. I don't know. This guy looks pretty insane. Of course, it'll be interesting to see how he actually performs, but I can't imagine he's going to be bad. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to Hoyan, which I think most people are probably more hyped for, even though Holden's technically like the new unit that we've never seen before, but Hoyan has a pretty cool design, and female characters are always more popular anyway. So let's go ahead and point this out right away. It says, when fatally struck, she recovers HP and launches her ultimate. So if she dies, then she just hits them with her skill 3 upon death, which is nuts. So you got to be careful. Even if you kill her, she's going to try and kill you. Like, there's no getting around that. So she's like guaranteed value, which I think is really important to point out. In a lot of games, whether we're talking about card games or video games or whatever, if you can guarantee value from something, that's just instantly a like higher level, something that's going to be better. Because with other units, they could die before you manage to do what you're trying to do out of them. With Hoyan, just by the fact that you've chosen her, she's an automatic use of her skill 3, and I feel like that cannot be underestimated. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at her skill 3. It says Hoyan consumes 50% of her current HP and deals 480% damage to a single enemy, ignoring 6.5% defense for every 10% max HP lost. So 6.5% of defense isn't really a big deal, but for every 10% HP lost, she's going to ignore that much defense. She's automatically going to cut 50%, and it sounds like she probably counts any amount of HP that she's lost. So you could potentially be doing that, relative to like 80% HP, 90% HP, etc. So this definitely seems like a really, really strong skill. And again, this is what she's going to be launching at you if she dies. So don't take that lightly. I don't really know how you get around that, frankly. Now her skill 2 says when Hoyan is about to be defeated, immediately restore 60% max HP and immediately use execution right on the target that attacked her. So yeah, good luck with that. Let's take a look at her skill 1. Hoyan strikes swiftly, dealing 2 hits of 130% damage to a single enemy with a 25% chance to inflict anti-heal for 2 turns. And anti-heal says cannot receive healing. Which I thought that was just wound. Maybe we need to double check and see exactly what wound says. But anyway, she's going to stop units from being able to be healed, which of course is also going to be pretty crippling. I think she is going to be a very strong unit too. And, honestly, to be fair, most units in Etheria Restart are quite strong. They really haven't, they've done a good job of really distributing the power, but both of these units look kind of busted. What I want to say is that I don't like that we're getting 2 banners. So you'll probably want to pull for them. I'll be pulling for at least one of them. They've been pretty generous with resources so far, but still. Devs, if you're watching, and I will give you this feedback directly, we don't want 2 banners in a row, okay? The game's only been out for a week, slightly more than a week, and you're giving us 2 banners at a time. That is not a good look. This is like what a lot of games do with giving you a unit and a weapon, and then you have to pull for 2 things at once. Now, yes, it's a little bit better because you're not dependent on getting the other thing. You can just get one character and ignore the other one, as opposed to like having to get a weapon that works with the unit. But still, 2 banners at a time is not great. Now, a lot of games do this for like special events and things like that, but if this is just the normal, standard operation where we always get 2 banners, I don't like it, and I think that could easily give a lot of players fatigue and makes me question the long-term future of the game. Now, I'm not going to say that like the sky is falling and like, oh, this means this game is trash now. Not at all. I'm still really enjoying the game. I'm just saying this makes me a little concerned, and we'll have to watch and see what happens. So let me know what you think about this. If you're planning to pull for either unit or both units, I'd love to hear your comments on what you think is good or bad about them, and I will catch you guys in the next video or stream.